Hello, my name is Lauren Phillips, and today we're going to be talking about David Berkowitz, aka the Son of Sam. Now, David Berkowitz was born June 1st in Brooklyn, New York. His original name was Richard David Falco. When David's mother was pregnant, her current boyfriend at the time said, I don't like that you're having a baby. Like, if you don't get rid of this child, I'm leaving you. So she gave him up for adoption. However, David was very quickly adopted by a couple by the names of Pearl and Nathan Berkowitz, and they lived in the Bronx. And it was said that they were very good parents to David and loved him very much. David was definitely an outcast as a child. He would do stuff like steal from stores and he would commit arson. David had a very good relationship with his mother and he was really close to her, but sadly his mother got breast cancer and died when he was at the age of 14, and that really affected him. Also, his father remarried after the death of his wife, and David did not like that. When David turned 17, he joined the army and he fought in Fort Knox and South Korea, and he was honorably discharged in June 1974. When he came home from the army, he decided that he wanted to track down his biological mother, Betty, and when they finally reconnected, it really didn't go as planned, and he was hoping for a lot more of like emotional closure from it, and Betty did not give him what he wanted. David was already very unstable as it was, and having the whole situation with his mother go down, it kind of sent him down into a spiral. And when David was living at his house, he said that his neighbor's dog was a demon dog who was possessing him to do these horrible things that he was doing and the crimes that he committed. David's actual crime spree began around the mid 1970s, and his first ever crime was on Christmas Eve of 1975 when he stabbed two young girls who were walking home. One of the girls survived, and the other one was unfortunately killed. There was no way of linking David to the crime, so he was not seen as a suspect, so he continued on to go and do what he did. And he purchased a 44 caliber pistol on July 29th in 1976, moving to guns rather than just knives. A little later on, David went on to commit another crime when two women were sitting in their car and one was exiting, and David shot her in the chest as she was leaving, killing her instantly. As the other one saw what happened to her friend, so she starts to drive away, and she was shot in the thigh, but she did survive. A little while later, on October 23rd of 1976, a couple was sitting in their car as a window shattered randomly. The woman drove away scared because her window shattered and she didn't know what happened, and then she looked over to see a gunshot in her boyfriend's head. However, luckily both survived the incident, and police would link that crime with the previous shooting. On November 27th of 1976, two young girls were sitting on their porch outside, and David approaches them with a brown bag as he slowly pulls out the pistol out of his bag and he shoots both of the girls. He shot one in the neck and she luckily survived, and he shot another one in the back and she was paralyzed, but she did survive. And then after shooting both of them, he riddled the house with bullets, and a lot of people say that this was kind of him doing it for attention, like seeking out because he didn't get the attention he wanted from his mother and from friends and family, so this was how he was projecting. The next year, 1997, in January, an engaged couple was at a drive-by movie as gunshots went off, and the man drove away with minimal injuries, but the wife sadly died after being shot twice. March 8th, a young woman was walking home as David approached her and shot her. 2 days later, on March 10th, David approached a young couple sitting in their car and shot them both, and they both died. Now, at this point, David wanted to get some recognition for the crimes since he was doing them for attention, but no one was figuring it out. So this is when he sends a letter to the police. After the police investigate the letter, they decide to release it to the public, and they give a psychological profile of what they think the killer may be so the public is aware. Now, in June of 1977, David wanted to change it up a bit, so he went to Queens and a young couple was shot in their car. Thankfully, none of the shots were fatal. On July 31st, a couple who was on their first date was shot by David as he entered 4 rounds into their car, killing the woman, and the man lost his eye. Now, earlier that day, a woman had saw David on the street with a dark object, she said, and it just kind of gave her an unsettling feeling, so she began to run the other way from David as he fired shots in her direction. The woman went on to contact the police about what happened, and she gave the best profile she could, even though he was far away and she couldn't really see his face, but this did give the police some information. However, the woman was able to tell police that David had a parking ticket on his car, so the police would look up the ticket and it would lead them to David. Now, the police went to go talk to David, so they go to his home. David's not home. They take a look around and they look in his car and they can see an AR sitting in his back seat, just out in the open. So this obviously grants police a warrant, so they go back and get a warrant, and then they come back and begin the search. And in David's car, they found bags of ammunitions and crime scene maps, and they found a threatening letter to an inspector named Timothy Dowd. Now, David had still not arrived home, so police just waited it out, and they wait for him to come home, and they surprise him, and David just goes, "Well, you got me." David was taken back to the station, and in only 30 minutes, David confessed to all the crimes that he committed. Now, David's plan was to plead insanity, but he was examined by 3 different psychologists, and they all said that he was not insane and he was mentally there. And in the courtroom, David was sentenced to 25 years to life for each consecutive murder. Now, in his time at prison, David claimed that he was a born-again Christian and now went by Son of Hope rather than Son of Sam. And David still, to this day, claims that it was the demon dog that prompted him to commit these horrible crimes. Now, David applies for parole every chance he can get, even though he will never be eligible for it, but he is now 67 years old, living life as a born-again Christian ex-serial killer.
We're at Sullivan Correctional Facility in Fallsburg, New York. It's about 100 miles north of New York City off the New York Thruway. We're with David Berkowitz, the convicted Son of Sam killer, who is spending, you've been here how long in this prison?
About 12 years.
Attica before that, right?
Clinton before that.
And then Attica. Before.
And then Attica. It's been 22 years altogether.
Do you ever adjust to the, I mean, you have to, you have no choice, but how do you adjust to this kind of, for want of a better term, bleak living?
Larry, prison is not easy, but over the years, God has given me a lot of strength and a lot of hope to make it and to endure and to survive. He's done some miracles in my life, and he's brought me through a lot of things that maybe others would not have survived.
If not for that, you don't think you'd be sitting here?
No.
Because you're going to be here the rest of your life, right?
That's right. I'm doing consecutive life sentences totaling more than 300 years.
You have parole eligibility, but that's very doubtful, right?
As I understand it, actually I have my parole papers here, really the commitment papers, and as you can see, I'm doing consecutive sentences which run right after the other. So one life sentence overlaps the other, and really what that means is basically it's translated as life without parole.
What do you do with something like that?
Larry, believe it or not, I've learned to just be content and accept the fact. There are things that happened in the past that I deeply regret with all my heart, but I know that I can't change those things. And I have to accept the punishment that was meted out to me, and God has just given me the strength to endure from day to day.